And online.
Did you hear us? If you can hear us, wait for
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, so you want to say your name for roll call?
Yeah, Chris Cockrum.
And Kate?
Kate Rosenbarger.
Okay, and we have back here?
Pauline Newville.
Okay,
Larry Allen, Newport.
Hey, Brian, Ivy Tech.
okay,
Troy Phelps, Ivy Tech.
okay,
Cheryl Gilliland, Controller's Office.
okay, I think we got everybody. I didn't miss anybody online, did I, Dee? Okay, great. Has everybody, you were sent in your packet, actually an updated copy of the minutes? Has everybody had an oops, we'll do one more on roll call.
Hello, Felicia Spinelli.
Okay, thanks, Felicia. Okay, all right. Everybody had opportunity to read the minutes. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes?
I would like to raise a question
Okay,
in the unfinished business. And this is important primarily because of something later in the agenda, but it's not clear who seconded the motion to have the signatories as listed there just before in the last paragraph. And so I'm kind of wondering, does anybody remember? Been a while. We've
yeah,
all
I
slept since
know.
then.
You're that as well.
And so maybe, Larry, this is a problem from because ultimately in a couple banking situations, we need to submit documentation.
I would recommend updating it. So there was a recording in the meeting, right?
Yeah, but I think,
Unfortunately, it's a very poor recording, so there are some things that we can't quite hear. And some of it,
But somebody did second
someone did second the motion, yeah.
do you advise us maybe to just do it again and make it?
I mean, you could, but honestly, if you did the roll call vote at the meeting and that's recorded in the minutes, it's a technical, at best, it would be a technical violation of Robert's rules that was waived by consent of the board by passage of the agenda item. So I don't think it's necessary to necessarily do that, but if you'd like to do a belt and suspenders approach, you can always reach the at the meeting and just have.
I just don't want to have to
Okay.
go through the whole banking rigmarole to discover that it's gonna be a problem.
Okay, Mary, do you want to make your motion again? Did you make, it look like you,
I was going to move.
oh, you moved it? Okay, I'm sorry, okay.
What?
So should we have an item right now where we're just doing the same thing over again?
Yeah,
So I will move to approve Mary Morgan, myself, Alex Crowley, and Jeff Underwood as signers for the BUEA bank accounts.
do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Online, are you okay?
Can we
Yes.
please call vote?
Okay, roll call vote, sorry.
Thank you.
Paul Ash, yes.
Julie Donham, yes.
Heather Robinson, yes. Mary Morgan, yes.
Alex Crowley, yes.
Felicia Spinelli, yes.
Online,
Chris Cockrum, yes.
and Kate? Kate?
Oh, my phone was muted. Kate Rosenbarger, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, that was
And for
unanimous.
the recording, Paul Ash was the second.
Yep, Paul Ash was
Cool.
the second. Okay,
Thank you for that.
all right. So with that kind of clear up on our prior minutes, are there any other changes to the minutes?
Alicia, I thought you were here last month.
Oh, okay.
No, I was not.
Okay,
You were with us in present.
all right. Any other changes? If so, if there's no changes, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We've got
Paul Ash, aye.
Julie Donham, yes.
Heather Robinson, yes. Mary Morgan, yes.
Alex Crowley, yes.
Felicia Spinelli, yes.
Chris Cockrum, yes.
Kate Rosenbarger abstain. I just didn't get a chance to review them.
Okay, great, thank you. Then it was approved.
And if I could maybe request just for the recording, again, future recording needs, when motioning, state your name, I'd just be.
Gotcha.
So that was Heather and Mary.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Great. Okay. So moving on the approval of the minutes, we'll move on to the director's report. Dee, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Firstly, grants, so we have moved to the point of sending out contracts and getting financial documents back to those who have applied for grants and have been approved. So we will start moving to do payments next month. So I will have a report of how much money we've actually pushed out next month, so we can compare those against the financials for next month, or I guess this month. So that's the update on grants. The next cycle starts for DE, I believe, next week. So those are rolling along pretty fine. Having a little problem with the grant software, which happens, but we're making do with what we got. So the second thing on your agenda, I put in RF was actually that hasn't really moved. So I corrected the agenda with the EZ update. Currently, I have finished all the invoices and it looks like we're probably, I'm projecting around 495,000 from EZ returns, which is a great amount of money for the zone. So we'll see, still waiting for paperwork to come back to me and confirming all of that so we can get everybody paid out and stuff. So that process is going well. I spoke to Jane at CDFI Friendly. We are looking to have a presentation next month from CDFI Friendly. She tried to get something prepared for us to look over this month, but she's swamped getting her feet on the ground over there. So hopefully we'll have a good presentation. And you know that Julie and Jane have been in communication with that. So we're going to shore up that relationship and get some information to you guys as soon as possible. And then next on the director's report, I'm going to turn over to Larry to introduce Colleen.
Well, Colleen to introduce herself. This is the newest member of our legal department. She's immensely talented. She'll be staffing you from now on, which please don't cheer too loudly at the moment. Wait till I leave the room after the meeting at least, but it's Colleen, you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so say hi, I'm Pauline Newell, and yeah, the news attorney, I'll be on this one. And feeling the hand a lot too, so no questions.
Great, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right,
That's it for me.
and under the director's report, moving on, you've got financials for February and March in your packet.
Just a quick note, why we're doing two financials in 1 month. And it's basically because a few times a year, and it's typically this time for February and March, when the first lands on a Wednesday, it's almost impossible to get financials ready for this meeting, which is the following Wednesday. So by the time the bank statements are ready, so just so you know, that's usually why we're behind.
So what's the norm, how long does it normally take to get the financials? I was wondering, just wondering.
Well, it takes me several hours to go through all of the financials, and I run into problems sometimes with missing deposits or not knowing what payments were for and different things like that. So that slows down the process. But if the first falls on a Wednesday, by the time we get the statements, if they come, some come in the mail, some come electronic, and Alex, the ones that are electronic, Alex downloads into a folder that I have access to.
Okay.
So it just depends on when that comes in, when it gets to, when, I have access to it. So if I don't have access to it until late Thursday or Friday, we're supposed to have everything to you by Friday. For your meeting the next Wednesday. So that's, the delay, and it's just as well as my schedule. I try to block time to
Yeah.
do them, but things come up where I don't have the time.
Yeah.
When the statements become available until, so usually it's nice to have the full week to do them.
Right, exactly.
Which is typical, but
Right.
these few times a year, when the first falls on a Wednesday,
That would be.
it's a very, very small window. Yeah, so, and most likely we don't have the paper ones in the mail until, a lot of times it's the 5th or 6th.
Do you want to go through February's
So-
financials?
Yes. So, and I have March as well, so. we can-
I'm sure I should add that Cheryl had a good thought, because in this day and age, we should be able to pull down all of our banking statements online, but we have just relied on paper versions for some of the not dormant accounts, but the less active. First Financial, we have login credentials all set up because we do a lot of payments that way. But one of the things we'll talk about in terms of the banking stuff later is just to figure out how to shorten the window that are
Yeah.
associated with banks.
Yeah.
Just a question, what's the software or what accounting software are you using?
We use QuickBooks.
QuickBooks, it's in QuickBooks.
So. Okay, so if you look at the profit and loss statement for February, basically, February you had income of $6,100.04. And that basically breaks down to $344.13 coming in from First Financial interest. I'm sorry, not First Financial, from interest on your business loans and late fees. And as well as $5,554.50 on interest from your First Financial money market account. And then $201.41 on your certificates, totaling the $6,100.04.
So this, it just looks weird to me to have negative bank
Yeah,
service
I've
charges.
not been able to get that corrected yet on
Yeah.
on the Quicken side, because your interest falls under your bank fees, so it shows in as a negative,
Okay.
but it's really a positive.
Yeah.
So that's the interest part.
Okay.
You don't have any other bank fees. So it's always interest.
Yeah.
Other than last year, we did have some, they're getting charged $10 a month, the one that we ended up closing. But typically it's just all interest, so it just shows up as a negative in these reports, so. So you show the profit. So when you look at the February balance sheet, your total assets, that basically in all of your accounts ends up being $2,949,730.06. And that equates to $2,705,701. Sorry, $2,705,701.38 is within your banking statements. So you can see your First Financial ends up being right at 2.1 million. And then you have your German, American, Ukrainian peoples rounding out the rest of that total. And your notes receivables is another form of assets. And that breaks down to $244,028.68. And you can see all of your loans balances listed here.
I'm not sure if there's a place for this in the agenda elsewhere, but that's $50,000 and then pay. Do we have it?
We talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, so those are all of your loan balances. And if you go over to your March profit, you will see that that you didn't have a profit for the month. It's a negative $38,495.81. And that's due to the fact that we paid out a grant payment to Ivy Tech in the amount of $45,000. You also see, again, the $283.57 that come from your loan interest, and late fees. And again, your money market interest of $6,038.53, and your certificate interest of $182.09. And if you switch over to your balance sheet for March, your total assets end up being $2,911,234.25 as your total assets. Of that, $2,671,094.94 is the total balance within all of your banking accounts. You can see the amounts in each of the accounts listed. Your notes receivable total is $240,139.31. And again, you can see your loan balances for each of those businesses.
So I was curious as to why the sweep amount is the same for both months.
The sweep amount.
So the negative on the 5,178.84, that just doesn't seem right to me.
So we're,
FFP checking.
It's the amount that swept, you got a ZBA account probably.
that balance, the 5,000, the negative 5,000, those are outstanding.
But why is it the same each month? That's just,
Those are some outstanding, basically, checks or electronic transfers that we have accounted for within, QuickBooks, Quicken, which, have not cleared.
okay,
And they're still outstanding, so we need to look into, Jeff Underwood needs to go through them with me because I don't have access to correct them.
Okay.
We need to look into those outstanding.
yeah,
They may be duplicates, or they were things that we were told that would be coming through, and we put it in, went ahead and put it in so that you have it counted against your balance, and those, it just never, the money's not been cashed. If it
okay,
was
so
a check
you'll
or-
take a look at that and see what
Yes,
those. Yeah,
yes.
because it's kind of odd to see that. I mean, it's not odd to see a negative number there because there's a ZBA, but it's odd that that number's the same.
It's, well, yeah, it is because that is, everything else is clear,
Okay,
and that is, those end up being the amounts. Yeah, it's a liability against the accounts because
okay.
they're listed as expenses that could hit.
Okay. Dee, do you want to talk a little bit about the notes receivable just while we're here?
Yeah, for sure. So I did get in contact with someone over at the business and they directed me to the owner's email, which is
Yeah,
actually.
you're talking about my sports bar.
Yes.
Okay.
And so when directed to the email, I emailed them and it has an automatic response to call the store. So I will physically have to go over there and address the situation. And that's that at this point. I'm just gonna have to walk over there and speak to someone in person.
And that's the only non-responder.
That is the only non-responder we have.
So what is the recourse? I mean, I don't know. So having an outstanding loan that business just simply isn't.
Well, right now, as far as the RF loans, we're trying to work with people who have gotten in contact and they're like, hey, we are in trouble.
Right.
We can't do this right now.
Right.
So, right now I'm working on new schedules for their loans, coming up with a proposal for the Office of the Controller so we can get these people back on track because they truly are grateful for what the city has done for them. But at the same time, the city doesn't want to put anyone in a position where, they're losing their homes or whatever because, we're putting them further into debt. So that's what's going on with people who are making an effort to get right. Now, as far as recourse for what we can do someone who is not responding, I am going to turn that over to our lawyer.
Yeah, that's really what I was asking.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is the situation that if someone's just not responding, unable to pay, not paying, what are the steps?
So we've talked, Dee's kind of alluding to this, we've kind of talked about walking up the ladder of pain, right? We're not gonna jump to the end.
Of course.
Everybody signed a personal guarantee with these loans, so they are guaranteed. From that standpoint, that's obviously kind of what we viewed as the worst last option. If they're completely non-responsive, they refuse to go, we'll probably first send them, and you're clearly in default, so a letter giving them notice of that, giving them some time to contact and ensure from the legal department as opposed to from staff level. If they still don't cure, we potentially file against them for the amount of the loan in court, and then exercise our options from there, either negotiating settlements or potentially exercising against those guarantees. So it's a pretty wide range of options just based on the terms of the loan agreements. We're sensitive to this split phasing thing.
Of
As
course.
Dee alluded to, we have no interest in taking anybody out, but we do have, they have to be responsible. They just have to work with us at some point. So we'll be prepared to exercise any of the options we have.
So how many months is this, should this have been making a payment or contact, or how?
It's been almost it'll be a year in June.
We need to do that. We need to make sure that happens. So I think we talked about it last time, and we need to make sure, because we just can't let it go. I think there's still ramifications if you just let it go and don't do anything about it too.
I mean, there'd be it's under the terms of the agreement, but obviously we're not waiving anything. We wouldn't allow that to
Right.
happen at this stage. But we've certainly been very lenient with everyone. I mean.
And I understand that.
And so, but yeah, we're prepared at any time that we just take action.
But we have somebody that's not answering for a year. That's the problem. So.
It's a leveling block to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all-
So just to bring us up to date on the other notes, you're in contact with everyone else, or
Everyone's making payments.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone else has been making payments. I think I think there's a very small, like $3,600 loan that they're having some trouble with it. So I'm trying to figure out a better schedule for them. But yeah,
And I don't think we have a problem with that.
no, it's mostly the FABs that have been kind of problematic, at least as far as the department dealing with them. But as far as like our PUA loans, they're pretty solid. So.
Okay. I'm sorry, Cheryl. We just
Oh,
need.
no, that's, I mean, great segue.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are there questions on the financial reports?
Julie, this might be a question for you. With all the bank craziness that's happening.
Yeah.
I don't want to presume, I'm not suggesting that any of our banks are in trouble, but do we need to be concerned about balances exceeding $250,000? And do we need to, is that an issue for us? We've got a lot of money sitting at First Financial Bank
Right.
that is not FDIC, presumably FDIC
Right, yeah.
insured. Like, should we be, I'm watching the balance go up a little bit on German American, and it's climbing every month, and it'll at some point cross that threshold. Do we
Right.
need to be thinking ahead and wondering?
I think you need to be aware of the financial situation of the bank itself.
Yeah.
But it is something to be, obviously in the last two banks that failed, they stepped up and covered things, but if it would end up being a systemic thing, I don't think that the government will cover all. So your 250,000 does make a difference. But I think your biggest thing is to know the condition of the banks that you're dealing with and just get a good feeling. If you do feel good about it, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you feel like there's any shakiness, I would keep it at the 250.
So in the case of the significant balance with First Financial, can you break them up into different accounts and mitigate the risk, or?
You can only do that if you you can't on this type of an account. You can, if you're on a personal account, you can put different beneficiaries, and you can get $250,000 for each beneficiary that you add on an account. But on this type of an account, you can't.
I wondered that too.
That's a good question.
Crossed my mind.
So
It's a significant amount of money to have in one place.
Yeah.
it is.
The reason I think from a controller perspective, we have a significant amount of city money at that bank.
We
get a
do,
lot of
that's,
benefit from
yeah, that is the
consolidating,
bank
right?
that we go through. And actually, we go through that bank because it's the only bank that will take our cash from collecting from all of the meters.
Wow.
Isn't that silly? That's how we decide where we go, but, and until that, till we have a change at some point, then you're, we'll have freedom to go to other, work with, negotiate with other banks to, whatever, to switch. But
Right.
we've been with them for quite a while.
But going back to your question about breaking up, you were talking about still keeping it with First Financial, but having different accounts.
No, it won't, it doesn't, it doesn't.
No, no,
Go
but
around.
I'm saying, what about moving it to, I mean, we exhausted the number of institutions that we could.
No, and to be fair, those accounts like with German American, the credit union and People's are all CDs. aren't they?
These are certificates.
Yeah, so they're all time type deposits. The big account is our operating account and, we can move other things, we could move chunks of it to other places and get a CD if we wanted to do that. So, and then we would have the.
So there's
coverage.
value in consolidating, right? Because
Yeah.
you get benefits
Right.
across the organization.
Right,
But I guess it's really just a question of, in the highly unlikely event that First Financial somehow hangs on us, right?
Right.
Then we're a little bit exposed on it and we aren't burning through more than about $500,000 a year in terms of in and out flow. So, it could be something to consider. I don't know. That's-
I think it's something to maybe think about, but I don't. If there are no questions, let's, if I have a motion to approve both financials, if that's okay,
So moved.
second, oh, that was Paul.
Heather Robinson, second for February and March 2023 financial approval.
Great, thank you. And we'll do a roll call. Paul,
Yes. Paul Ash, yes.
Julie Donham, yes.
Heather Robinson, yes.
Mindy Morgan, yes.
Alex Crowley, yes.
Elisa Spinelli, yes.
Chris Cockrum, yes.
Kate Rosenberger, yes.
Great, thank you very much. All right. Moving on to new business. Dee, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, so today we have, I don't know if you know Steve Bryant or yourself, from Ivy Tech SBDC, to tell us a little bit about what happened in 2022 and what's going to happen in 2023. for the- their sponsorship.
luxury of the Troy and Steve show.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, Troy in a previous role, over a decade ago, started this partnership with the UEA in the city, and back when he was regional director for Small Business Development Center Network. Then he became state director and left us for a while, and then when the pandemic hit, he came back to us.
Yeah.
So here he is. Yeah, get rid of him. So what I thought I would do is talk a little bit what happened here in the past year, 2022, and have Troy kind of tee up what we're thinking for 2023. Again, we always appreciate our partnership with the UEA. Purposely in 2022, back when Jane was running things, she wanted to push us more towards education and training as the bulk of the responsibilities and activities that we focused on, which I thought was a good move. As Alex knows, and indeed, we have a separate partnership with the city to support our Small Business Development Center activity. And we focus on our one-on-one consulting and other things we do on that. So we're much more focused on, the education and training activities, which is obviously what Ivy Tech does. As we started 2022, you may recall, it didn't seem like it, but we were still dealing with pandemic back then. And we were still doing some online Zooms around the economic injury disaster loan program from the SBA. Some of the city loan programs were still in effect, and we were still participating in the monthly Zooms with all of you, reporting on what's going on with pandemic preparedness and how to help small businesses. So we're actively participating in some of that. And then we moved towards doing some more value-added things for the entrepreneurs and small business and residents and so and the fringe that we deal with every day. And as for those of you who may not know, we deal with everything from your food trucks and your restaurant startups, all the way to the high-tech businesses in the mill and everything in between. There's not many industries we don't deal with in terms of helping with their business setup or their business growth. So we did some things like some QuickBooks programming at the mill. I'll have Troy talk a little bit more deeply about that since he did some of those. Financial projections, some e-commerce, digital marketing strategies. We did some of these in partnership with chambers, some of these at the mill and in partnership with the mill to get more value out of getting the larger audiences that they serve as well, which is reflected in some of the numbers and what we put together for all of you. Additionally, towards the end of the year, we got a call from the housing authority wanting to do some type of workshop with hand to get more contractors into their vendor pool to bid on Crestmont projects or other projects with the city. So we did some planning towards the end of the next year to actually do that. And I'll have Troy talk about the results of that when we did that in January and February of this year. So really what we did was we focused on some of those activities. You know, as we do those through the Cook Center or the SVDC, we track them in our CRM system. So we kind of know, you know, who registered for them, at least for those that actively registered it. If it was a Zoom based, sometimes they didn't register, they just kind of showed up. So we thought we got a lot of value out of that. We got a lot of clientele out of it coming through our doors. Some of them were from the nonprofit community as well, which I may not have mentioned in the report itself. But you know, those were really value-added activities from our standpoint, because it's stuff we get requests for all the time. It's always about, I need help with finances, I need help with marketing, I need help starting my business. What is the process to actually form an LLC or whatever that may be, or walk them through those things. That's never something that goes away. So those are easy things for us to do. And as we mentioned, we partner with chambers and we market through BEDC and other organizations too, in our advisory board, which Alex sits on, to kind of get the word out about that. And obviously get some value into the BUEA as a sponsor of all that, and make sure it's in our materials. We also did a little bit of work in the small businesses that are looking to get into government contracting, be that municipal contracting. We talked about with BEHA in hand, but we also do some things with state, Indian Department of Administration, because a lot of our clientele are trying to get certifications for their business, women, minority, veteran-owned, disabled, veteran-owned, but also just to get certifications and get into the bidding game. And we have some staff that we brought aboard that have a lot of deep contracting experience, mostly with the defense side of things, but they know the process to help with those things. And they're now helping with some of our clientele basis that some of the stuff too late last year when they came aboard. So anyway, lots of great feedback about that from us. Additionally, as some of you might recall last year, some of the dollars went over to the mill to help with their code and IT academy, which Ivy Tech and the mill sponsored to help train residents on actually how to code and get jobs and provide career guidance and links to some of the small businesses that are looking to hire. I think they have a dozen clientele directly from the zone that they know were in those courses that they offered last year in the different tranches. I think there were 72 total, which expense that Andy told me that they did. The breakdown is in your notes. So really well. Like I said, we got tremendous feedback on the value of the training we're going to do, or that we did, and we'd like to replicate some of that this year. And I'll Troy kind of talk about that and take some questions at the end.
Thanks. Yeah, Steve alluded, you know, we kind of took the training aspect and are really trying to put that on steroids to say, we certainly partner with the mill to do a lot of these events, and we'll have them at the mill, but that's not really the primary audience here. It includes them, but we're trying to get to those that aren't tech savvy, you know, that just aren't, you know, more of the common businesses that we're really dealing with within the zone. So last year we did QuickBooks Level 1. And again, when I say QuickBooks, we're really honing in on the online version of this, because that's really where Intuit is pushing everything. And as they've kind of gone through that whole transition, people are going, this doesn't look like QuickBooks Desktop. And Heather's smiling at me.
It's different.
It is. And so we kind of broken it down into level 1 and level. Last year we did level 1, where it's okay, here's QuickBooks, what is it? And let's get you through setting up your chart of accounts, you know, we get you able to pay bills, that kind of thing. Level 2 goes much deeper and saying now, whereas on QuickBooks Desktop, you could customize invoices, logos, you could do things like that. How does that play over and how do you apply that into level 2? So we're getting ready, we're gonna offer level 1. These are mutually exclusive, okay? You can take 1 or 2 or both. Sorry, I had that muted. So that's kind of the auspices here. You can come 2 separate days, teach a level 1, you come back day 2 for level 2. The turnout on level 1 was very good. We had about 20 people. We'll at least get that or more for each one of these. I think there were about 24. So that's a pretty good audience. One of the others is social media marketing. This one, we're putting a little different take on this one too. Rather than just saying, hey, you need a marketing plan, it's, all right, you need a marketing plan. What's the best tool to accomplish that marketing plan? And if you want to write a website, here's how you do it. And just working through trying to help these folks, in my terminology, turn on the windshield wipers a little bit and turn the defogger on so you understand this. And so go a little deeper into that. The financial model, this is one we offered. I just kind of decided, let's try this and see what happens. We did it at the mill. I had 20 people attended. The financial model, it kind of goes hand in hand with the funding options. Financial model is, we use it to prepare people to go get a loan from a bank. You do the very basics, and then it's constantly filling out your financial projections. It does 3 years worth of income statement, cash flow, balance sheet. Okay, so you get that. Now what do you do with it? And the second step in the process is we now have on staff a gentleman from Driven America. That's what he did, was commercial lending, both from an SB and traditional. Okay, so you've got your financial model. Now, what does that mean? Look through the eyes of a lender. You know, where's the risk? What you need to be focusing on? Because the goal here is that if A, is it right? If business loan, and if it is, how do we make sure that you succeed? So that, you know, we're talking some of the, you guys are dealing with too, so that people are able to continue to make their payments. So it's really, you know, taking that to a whole new level, putting this down at a level that people can understand it. One thing that we've kind of also been working on from the Cook Center side that we're going to implement is focusing specifically on the veterans. Okay, this one has really just ballooned on us. We've even attracted the interest of Senator Braun's office. He sent 2 people from his office to engage with us. And we're bringing together all different service providers within the city and the county that provide any kinds of services to veterans. I mean, where are the gaps? Where are we, how are we losing them? And more importantly, how do we attract those veterans that for whatever reason aren't taking advantage of the resources available? So we're identifying who they are. That's the first step. Believe it or not, that's a little bit of an elusive audience, but we're getting there so that we can directly reach out to them and say, hey, here you are. Here's the type of services that we have. The group started out about 8 last time. Our goal, our attendance was closer to 25. So these are, you know, it's very well received. And finally, as Steve mentioned, the government contracting, working with the Bloomington Housing Authority, and kind of did the same thing. We offered this twice. We'll offer it again, where we bring different service providers, certainly housing authority in hand, but also insurance agents and bankers, get them all at the table so that these people, and this one's really heavily, almost exclusively for the zone, bring them in so that they can get the specific questions answered and they can, you know, jump over hoops and find out the best leader. Kind of the concept of put everybody in the room together so that you can just literally walk around the table and get the questions you need and figure out, now, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to go, how do I get there, and what resources are there. So the first one, we had just a few attendees. The second one, we doubled. We'll offer it again and we'll continue. Those are some of the things we have in play. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, you might mention one of the issues that was important to add to that group was licensing and bonding and what that means. So, you know, for somebody who's a handyman or just does light concrete work and wants to elevate their game, they also need to understand what goes in licensing and bonding. So we had First Insurance Group there to talk about that if anybody wanted to better understand the process and what needs to happen to make that requirement hit for them to actually bid on city contracts. So we're really happy with that. And then I forgot to mention Hope. So you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, you're all familiar with Project Hope. Okay, that is continuing to some extent. It's no longer having quite the state impact. And I guess I should back up for those of you that don't know, it's a partnership that we started from the IU Kelly School of Business when COVID hit and people had, small businesses had to pivot from being maybe an online, storefront to online. Well, that really drove home, okay, I know nothing about a website. I don't have any idea what Twitter is. I don't know. I'm lost. And so each small business could participate through the program once. And we paired them with a group of IU students to actually sit down with them. This is what you need. We'll write you a website. We will put the media on it. We'll actually put the thing live. And then we will write a manual and train you on it when we're done, hand it over to you so you can continue down the path. That's also driving, I said, the social media marketing, that's kind of driving that too. Okay, you did your website. Now you still got some steps in terms of how do you actually now manage that website. And to date, Hope has done almost, I think there's 980 clients that they've reached. Now, the vast majority of these did come from Bloomington and the zone. I mean, there's a strong percent. Bloomington drove that. Again, so we're going down that route. We're going to continue down that path. The IU team is really now becoming just, us working with them within our region. It's a city, the county, the zone. So one thing I'll also tell you too, because of the audience, the staff that we have on board and the specialties within, we're really working hard to identify where are the, for example, where are the gaps? For example, as we go around with the bankers, we're asking them, what are you hearing from the people coming in? Where are they hung up? What help do they need? What training is lacking in that? And we're getting some interest from the banks also to kind of say, yeah, we could step up and provide that information. So we're really trying to bring this full circle now, try to be more proactive.
How do you reach out to the vets?
Well, that's why that's been elusive. We've spent a lot of time on that. We have the American Legions involved. We have all the different groups that interact with it. Believe it or not, now the best bet is going to be the Department of BMV. I know, I was shocked too. They're now developing where veterans can identify as a veteran, and then they can push out the information for us to the vets. That one has been one that we're really excited about because of the challenge is unique on some of these. You wouldn't think that would be hard, but it's been very difficult to find. And we can find those that are already taking advantage of services. We're going after those that for whatever reason are not taking, just not self-identifying for. So that's where we're going with it now. That's part of the reason Senator Braun's office was interested, because he was also trying to reach this audience and kind of got involved in this saying, let me see if I can't drive some of this. But that's going to be the mailing list and how we identify who that's are.
Yeah, because I remember when I got out, of course, this was a long time ago, but the military just kind of crossed you out.
Yeah.
You were on your own, and I didn't even know to go and get a disability. My dad taught me to do that.
And, and honestly, that's what we're hearing from support, especially on the younger vets. They want out. They're not interested in, I don't care, I just want out. But there are some valuable resources that are available to offer them. Some of it is, getting in front of them and saying, hey, this is available. This can really help your family. Kind of bringing that back around. So everything I'm hearing, yeah, the BMV is going to help us on that because they're going to have the database of veterans. So hoping that works. I mean, that's everything we're hearing. They're going to help.
And a lot of them are more damaged than we were because of the concussions and everything.
It's definitely an audience. There's a lot of them in the region. So.
Yeah, the veteran service officers from Monroe County, Green County, and Lawrence County, and Brown County. Yeah, they all participated. They were very high on, hey, there's a lot of people with a lot of issues that we have a hard time engaging, and some of them don't want to engage, period. They don't want to talk to anybody. And that's okay, but we want those that are interested to know we're here as a service, and we're obviously interested in it from an entrepreneurship perspective and small business, but if you're dealing with homelessness or addiction or, PTSD, and you just need a funnel into those providers, the more of us that know each other out there to talk, the better. And this includes IU, veteran service people, Ivy Tech. We have people in charge of veteran because they all deal with GI Bill, for students that are taking classes and they see the issues on their end too.
Also, I had a question about the small business side. How do you reach the smaller businesses that don't have a commercial storefront or aren't even online? They're working out of their kitchens or their homes to start their business up. And they may be intimidated just by the Ivy Tech Cook sign that they don't have they don't meet the criteria of a small business. How do you reach them?
Well, yeah, and that's a challenge that, we've dealt with. I've been involved with the SBDC for longer than I wanted to admit. It's been about 2 decades. Word of mouth tends to work really well in that. Your point's very valid. So we rely on people like you at the table, other contacts to say, the SBDC can help you, and they're not here. They're not a government agency. We're very careful. We say, we're not the government. Yes, we get government funding, but we're not the government. We're not here to tell on you to bring that in. And we constantly network. We go to chamber events. We go to different community events. We go to things like just trying to get out in the community. I've gone to farmers. I start talking to people, and wow, or they might know Heather, they might know me, or they might know Steve personally. And so we start engaging with them that way, trying to break down the barrier so that they don't feel like, well, I can't reach out. There are programs, there are tools like Reference USA as an example. If they register as a small business, we can grab that information, their address, the company name, and reach out to them directly. But to your point, I think you're talking about those who might be sole proprietorships that aren't necessarily registered. And there is a little bit of work on the state through the Department of Revenue, if you don't file a tax return, you got to file, and they can sometimes pass us some of the information. It's very limited, but the company name or the person's name, they can pass us. That's kind of more difficult to do, but the state director, that was one of the things that we were able to pull that training page. To that point, what would you say was the % increase in client flow this year? It's been massive.
Oh my God, it's at least 20%.
Oh yeah, of an increase. So the word is getting out, and we are attracting more than we've ever attracted. I used to say, whenever you hit a recession, the SBDC was dead. That has not happened this year. We've got more staff than we've ever had, and literally, we're just hitting it hard. Universities help. Ivy Tech helps that. We talk to their classes. We talk to some of the we're catching younger high schoolers. If they do pitch competitions, we go engage with them too. All different ways that we're trying to. Good question. I wish I had a really hardcore answer. We come at it as many different directions as we can, realizing that sometimes if you just don't, you need to identify as a small business so that we can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advantage. Get a small business, have that small business as your module, have that small business tell other small businesses. That's the only way to work in that field, because they won't come to you.
But if we know you and you know them, and you can say, yeah, they're okay, go engage.
Because I've told people about you, I use every one of those resources that you guys have. I even started talking to Steve like 6 months ago for the CPA. I knew that because I went to the SBDC school. Other people won't do that, so they won't know the resources.
I think you were one of our first clients when we started Cook Center.
Yeah. Top the class, I'm like,
Yeah, to that point too, as we meet with bankers, we're telling them, okay, as you get clients that you are, that are struggling or whatever, send them to us. Have you been to the SBDC? Because sometimes they can encourage you to, hey, maybe they could help you.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much. And we're obviously very engaged with funds and help that you can put back in the zone. So that's obviously a big focus for us.
That's what
So
makes it the win.
it is, it definitely is, so. Did written report? I didn't get that.
I did, I just sent it. I thought that I had put it, I also pulled up her notes. I was like, oh, I didn't put the report in the
Okay.
amended notes. So I did just send it to all of you. So
Okay,
you do
great.
have a copy of it.
Yeah, question, just.
Okay, great, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
and thanks for all you do, so anyway. All right, is there any more new business? If not, we'll move to unfinished business, and Alex, you get to give us a banking
So
update. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So there was a memo, I don't know if it was included in the previous packet, but I put a memo together that we have 4 bank accounts, First Financial, German American, I use Credit Union and People's State Bank. We've all, this would have been several meetings, no, maybe I just sent it to Dee. Anyway, Dee, if you want to, I don't know if you want to put that, but basically, as you might imagine, there's a different process for every bank. In the end, I think we've all agreed and confirmed today that it'll be me, Jeff, and Mary on the accounts. Those will be the 3. And so for that to happen, and I can just kind of, Mary, you and I can just go through it because you're the only other board member involved. But fundamentally, some banks require a driver's license, copy of driver's license, signature of certain cards. And then we have legacy listings of people on some of these older accounts that we just have never touched. We've got to kind of clean that up. We'll get a signature card back from the bank. We'll have to all ink sign that. Jeff, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get Jeff because he's gonna be probably the hardest one to do. And then we'll turn it all back in.
Tuesdays.
Monday.
Tries to be.
Okay, so we'll work that from a staff perspective, but in the end, what we're trying to do is clean up the legacy stuff using the process that each bank has outlined, and then it'll be Mary, Jeff, and me on all the accounts. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we want to also try to do as part of this process, once we've kind of set up everybody as a signatory, is to understand which bank capabilities exist for things like electronic statements. I pull them the First Financial Bank statements once a month and the sweep statements and stuff like that. But on the other banks, we get paper invoices or statements. So we just want to figure out, can we tighten that up? Other than that, it's pretty straightforward and we'll just take care of it. And I think getting rid of some of the old members that used to be on the board from the accounts will just make everybody feel better.
So Heather, I'm gonna put this to you. So for safety of accounts and things like that, should Mary have online access? That's what I think too.
Yeah, I was going to ask about what are the.
Yeah.
Or how disbursements are, like, you take me from, like, do you do it twice a month, once a month? Who initiates it? Who can initiate it? Who can release it? Is it the same person? Does someone actually sign physical checks? I'm sorry, I know we're getting near, I don't want to.
No, that's fine. So there are
With
two
all
processes.
these questions,
Yeah.
but because of that, just thinking, there should be a board member outside of city that has access to the accounts all online, that she can take a look at any time
Yeah.
to see the activity going on in the accounts. That would just be a solid internal control.
So we have 2 internal controls right now. So we have 2 ways to issue payments, checks and electronic payments. So on the check side, it's a double signature. So I, as the department head, essentially over the position that is the director. So the any kind of issuance of payment is initiated by the director. I sign, and then the controllers countersigns. So we have an internal control that allows, to circumvent that. I mean, certainly no problem having another board member have
So who
access.
initiates that? Does D send what needs to be
Yeah.
paid? Okay.
Yeah, and so there'll be like a contract and a check, and I'll review it, and then I'll sign it, and I'll send it back, and then we'll send it to the controller. So we have that internal control on that. The electronic payments we sort of had to artificially create a control. And the way we do that is a request similarly comes from B or whomever. And I will review that, and I will first request the controller's permission to issue the payment. And then the controller confirms that, right? And Cheryl's copied on all this, right? So she can kind of have the paper trail in the background. So before I make any payment, I asked Jeff, here's the contract, here's the justification for it. May I go in and issue a payment against it? And I wait for that confirmation and then I make the payment. And so there's no sort of double signature equivalent on,
Right.
so we use that as a way to kind of create a paper trail that says this was a justifiable payment. So
Right.
I think it's pretty tight from an internal controls perspective. And I mean, the controller's office, I think is comfortable with it, but I mean, there's no reason not to give another board member access.
Yeah, I think it would just be, as far as just an additional internal control and due diligence to have it.
Somebody outside of the city.
Someone outside of the city, just because that would give any future audit or anything like that, that would be extras, gold star to have the external board member having, the ability just to review.
View only.
View only,
Yeah.
they don't have, well, Mary, I suppose would, but since she's a signature, but you could set up an online for view only, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, that's what we have to, now the other accounts, I'm less worried about the German
Well,
Americans.
the CDs.
Yeah,
is
they're
not-
just kind of- That's pretty dull.
Those balances don't change.
Right.
I mean,
And
other
there's-
than interest.
And that you couldn't just go in and like take out a CD.
You
without-
can't, yeah, you can't cash them in.
You can't
Yeah.
cash them in. So on the operating account, I
Yeah.
think just having, an online viewing. Just control, and then I know the reconciliation happens then, so like, that's a separate person
Yeah.
doing reconciliation. So all of that sounds really tight. I think just that one added piece, since Mary's being added,
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
by cleaning up the cards and stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, if I look back here, Harper's financial roster. Actually pretty tight. It's really removing Karen, because the rest of us are already on it. But, but
Yeah.
then providing.
And
that
I think
access.
the only reason that I'm on it is because I'm already on it, right?
Yeah.
And that we were gonna wait until and maybe make a change when the leadership changes next year.
Mhm.
So, but if you can give her view.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy. First Financial can issue, just like they'll send you a note and you'll have your own credentials and so forth, yeah.
There's also, I mean, it's sort of the classic. Like if I were up to no good, and we're going in there and setting up a new vendor, right? You get sort of alerts on that, and so there's a lot of sort of triggering controls that the bank does itself.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
All right, anything else in unfinished business? Is there anything for general discussion? I did want to mention, Dee had mentioned to me that we're going to possibly have Jane for the CDFI update at our next meeting, and we're also going to have another presentation.
Yeah, so, some of the, so Rich Recording is currently doing a concert series. It's, educational. They have some really big names that are coming to do it, and it is held within the zone to provide, entertainment and education to the residents of the zone. Stacy Brodowski, will be joining us next month with some of her crew and actually some like video presentations, so you guys can really see what the project is. I didn't think I was gonna talk about it, so.
No, that's fine. I just wanted people to know that. we're
But
having-
yeah, it looks like we're gonna have 2 presentations next month, so.
I mean, to a lot more time than an hour.
That's something to definitely take into consideration. I'll have to check in with both Jane and Stacy to see how long their presentations are. And then I can let you two know.
Where is Russian Ford?
So Rushing Point, the actual building is on South Walnut near Grimes.
Okay.
So it was like formerly Old Secretly Canadian Building and then formerly Art Hospital, and now it's Rushing Recording. So
Okay.
yeah.
I just wanted to mention that. So, is there any other business? If not, our next meeting is on Wednesday, May 10th. And I thank everybody for your participation here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Enjoy this weather. Yeah.
And I noticed that they have just started.
Hi, Chris. I think it's
Moving
Beach
dirt in the Hopewell project.
Last month.
Thanks online.
Mary, do you have to run out?